And here we are at the top of the hexagram. This is the last line in the last gate of this solar cycle. We're in gate 60, of course, the gate of limitation and acceptance, and the sixth line is called rigidity. When you get to the end of this process, when you get to the end of the limitation process, what you have is absolute rigidity. The rigidity that comes from being so still within your limitation. The sixth line is a line of transition. And here it is in a mutative gate and a mutative channel. So it represents a mutation that can be quite profound in the nature of what is possible in the mutative field. The exaltation says the intuitive intellect to recognize when absolute rigidity is essential, but with innovative applications to lessen its severity, a fixed energy that is unusual in its capacity for restraint. One of the things about the nature of the sixth line is that it is so clear to it that restraint and limitation is everything, because they are looking at the whole circuit and they are looking at it in order to see whether or not they make a commitment to whatever the theme of their gate is. This sixth line in its rigidity is saying that there cannot be any kind of commitment. I will be restrained. I will accept any limitation because nothing will work unless mutation is present. If the mutation is not there, I will be rigid in my restraint. And what that means is that these are people who are very rigid in accepting their limitations, and they will rarely engage at that level. Just accept it. And if you accept the limitation and if you live it out through your design, you get to see why that limitation is there for you. You get to see its advantages for you. And you get to see that it has a place within your dynamic, because after all, it's a format gate. It's going to influence your entire energy system. The detriment, the dogmatic, principled, and carefully reasoned understanding that is uncompromising in its severity, and often coldly brutal in operation. An uncompromising and severe acceptance of restraint, so uncompromising that the restraint may become unbearable and lead to chronic depression. Here is someone who says, I have to be restrained. I have to accept the limitation, otherwise there will never be a mutation. But I hate it. It's driving me crazy. Why can't there be a mutation? I can't stand this. This is a being who is going to be really unhappy with the rigidity and being fixed on it. When you say to these people, hey, chill, yeah, relax, they get annoyed and they get depressed because you recognize their rigidity and the fact that they are stuck in it and holding on to it. What happens to the sixth line here is that in genetic terms, very little mutation comes out of the sixth line that affects the nature of the genetic material of a human being. It is rare that any genetic material is mutated through this line. What or when even, when it does mutate, it doesn't bring a mutation that is recent, but it brings a mutation that is deeply recessive. It brings something out from deep down somewhere in the past, which may be of enormous value and may not, like all things having to do with the nature of mutation. What is important to see is that whether 59-6 will refuse to be intimate and may never be fertile because it cannot see that intimacy is worthwhile, the 60 in the line 6 will not provide any mutation because it is not going to engage because of its rigidity. So it will not provide a lot of mutative material. The mutative material will only come in those instances where the mutation is so profound that the whole process of the individual circuit can be lived out. For the sixth line, the only limitation that can be transcended is a limitation that is truly transcended. It is gone, it is over, it is finished. Something new is coming, and until that moment, they can suffer a great deal from being forced within their own nature to wait, and to be restrained and to accept the limitation. The third line process in the early part of the life is self-interest, bumping into the fact that you have to be limited and all the limitations that exist out there. And then you get to your sixth line phase and you crawl up on top of the hill. And what you're saying is that you have to find the limitation and you have to be rigid in that limitation. I'm the fall on the hill. I cannot come down from this hill. That is my limitation and I cannot operate in the world. I will not come down. I will die up here without food. I don't care. It's rigid. They really know what limitation is and they can really see whether or not the limitation is something that others can accept. We know from going through these 6 lines that they do not simply see across the channel. Every 6 line, it's looking more than it's just harmonic gate. They're looking at the whole circuit. So from the perspective of the 60, the 3 is only the beginning of a process. And out of that has to come the whole individual process and the complete mutation. And that's a long way to go. And you're never going to get there unless you're absolutely rigid in accepting your limitation, even if it brings you deep depression. After all, the depression in this gate is simply melancholy under stress. And the individual that comes to grips with melancholy, who recognizes that melancholy is not good or bad, but creates through sadness a creative environment, and in happiness a way in which to go out into the world and feel good about oneself and be a better example of one's individuality, be a better mutative force as a result. And in that recognition, it knows there's no need for depression. Rigidity is necessary, and accepting limitations is very important. It also means that from the very beginning, from the deepest place in the individual process, from its root, is this melancholy, because life is limitation. Our form is a limitation, and the glory of mutation is that moment which may or may not happen, in which limitation is transcended and something new actually happens. Then all of the individuals stand up and they cheer and they yell and they pat themselves on the back and feel fantastic. Otherwise, it's a struggle. And with the melancholy, it's always a struggle to find their mutative way in the world. The moment you accept limitation, anything is possible. And of course, that's where the 60 goes. Now it goes to where anything is possible. It goes to gate 41. The gate in which all the experience of the collective is stored and all the possibilities of collective experience and all the fantasy and imagination of what might be possible. The grounding comes from gate 56 in the line 6, which is called caution. The wisdom here is saying, be careful who you stimulate. And maybe it's also cautioning the 60 in its rigidity. Because if you are too rigid, you won't bend. You will just break. And that is not a good example to set. Venus moved into gate 22 at midnight, midnight, or 33 minutes past midnight. The solar plexus gate of grace, of openness or disgrace and closeness, depending on the mood. And mood is very important here in this gate, in this whole stream, really. Don't do anything if you're not in the mood, which is so much easier said than done, especially for children with this gate. So education for children with anything in this stream from the 39, 55, 22, 12, educating them as to the nature of the energy here could save them a lot of trouble and serve them well. It's a manifestor gate, so it has an impact. So the moon has been in gate 48 since 2241, the collective splenic gate of depth. It moves into gate 57 at 10:05, the individual gate of intuitive insight or intuitive clarity. It's a gate that is also part of integration, which we know is a complex channel made up of 4 gates that interact together to keep us safe and to ensure our survival as an individual. This is definitely not collective or tribal. Next, we have gate 32 at 21. 31, this is tribal. This is the tribal gate of continuity, of duration. And it is sitting in a channel with Mercury right now, currently in gate 54 in the marrying maiden. This is the gate of ambition. The channel is called transformation, with the energy to assist the tribe in rising up, both materially and spiritually. Because the only true transcendence comes through transforming the mundane. And finally, the moon transits into gate 50 at 8:57, another tribal gate in the defense circuit this time. This is the gate of values. It's called the cauldron, setting the rules and the laws for the tribe so that what has been conceived and brought to fruition through the 59-6 and nurtured and cared for in the 27 can be sent out into the world with values that will support it. And that's gate 60. So tomorrow is not only a new gate, but it's a new cycle. Tomorrow is our Rave New Year at 19:10 GMT. The sun transits into gate 41. And I will be doing the report tomorrow, of course. We'll have the overview and we'll have gate 1 of 41. So I will see you then, and I will wish you a very, very happy new year. And yeah, love yourself through this new year. What an adventure it is going on this journey around the wheel. What a privilege. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all the support and encouragement that I get to continue this journey. Just a few more gates now, and then I'll have done a whole year, which is it's an achievement. So thank you so much, and yeah, see you in the next cycle. Until then, as always, and I say this at the end of all my videos, and I mean it every time. It's not just a little throwaway thing, but really be gentle with yourself. I have gate 18. I know what it's like not to be gentle with myself. And I've punished myself far more than anybody else ever does. So going gently is something I am intending to do for myself in this new cycle. So I wish you well, I wish you love, and go gently.